Today, we thought that we would have a panel of our wonderful staff today to share with you what we've been learning here over the last several years of being in the pandemic, which has really been a huge, as you know, for all of us, a disruptive force that is not gonna, that has probably changed things forever for us. But we wanted to bring our panelists here to be able to share what their experience is working with the people around us and in our neighborhood who seek out Cameron House as they have for generations here as a place of welcoming, as a place of healing, learning, and thriving. I wanted to just first do a couple of housekeeping things. You all know, I think, where the restrooms are right behind. There are also restrooms up the stairs if you need. I would like to thank our volunteers that are here who helped us set up today. I'd love to also just invite Troy Wilson. For those of you that don't know Troy is our new development officer here at Cameron House. He's been here since July last year. And he's a face and a voice that you will hear and see often. But would you be kind enough to list a group that has sponsored our events for this year, just to be able to thank them?
Absolutely, thanks, Mike. I just want to say I had so much fun greeting all of you coming through those famous red doors of Cameron House. Great seeing all of you, and again, thank you to donors, supporters, board members, of course, volunteers, staff. But again, sponsors, let's get to that. By the way, did you all pick up one of these as you came in? Okay, good segue. On your way out, make sure you do. On the back of this handout are our sponsors, so I'm going to refer to those right now. Our gold, we have a gold, we have a silver and bronze level of sponsors, and we're grateful for all of you. And so let me name those off right now. Minami Tamaki is our gold level, as well as Acord and Fong. So round of applause there. Events that Mike alluded to earlier. And then our silver status was Mark and Barbara Fong. And Dana and Jung. And then on the bronze category, we have Gayle and Bill Chen. Pauline, Cheung, and Gary Fain. Pauline and Poong, Harbor Bay Chiropractic. Cynthia J. Nathan Lau. Liz Poong Mark and Carol Poong Gray. Doreen and Bruce Der-McLeod. And the Rotary Club of San Francisco, Chinatown. Thank you.
Right away on his right, then we've done the formal welcome and thank yous, and now I might invite the panelists up to the stage here to join us. I'd love to introduce Ada Lee. Ada Lee is our family engagement counselor. Ada has been, there was a time when Ada was a volunteer at Cameron House, and Ada is a professional social worker that serves the larger community as in a full-time job. And she, I know, has connected so much in the work at Cameron House. We're grateful for you to be here. One day a week, we would love to have you here more than one day a week, but that's how much time you can devote to us, and we thank you. Would you join us and have one seat question? Thank you. I'd love to invite Daisy Fong out to the group here. Daisy is our domestic violence case manager in our social services department at Cameron House. And Daisy's been with us serving the people that are at risk or are in need of interventions who are being impacted by gender-based violence. And you're going after your master's degree right now, and working full-time at Fain House. You've been also here for 5 years.
Yes,
right?
entering my
Awesome. Would you join us on the show? Thank you. And finally, I'd love to introduce someone that I've had the pleasure of working with for the last several years, Yulanda Kwong. Yulanda has been serving the Cameron House for, I want to say now, this is 19 years. 19 years of service, and the stories that she has witnessed or helped to support staff serving is an amazing body of work. And we thank you for what you've done to date to help serve the needs of the most vulnerable here in Chinatown and here in San Francisco, especially among our Cantonese, Chinese immigrants that are here. And we're happy that you're here. Would you join us on the stage? Troy is going to join us on the stage, and we're going to go back and forth with a few questions. One of the things that we discovered, and we reported this, is that during the pandemic, we've pretty much shut down in terms of having anyone come to Cameron House in person. And we were serving quite a number of people that depended on being able to come to Cameron House, if not every day, multitude of days during the week. What we started to do was to start making calls to all of the individuals that we serve. Many people come, drop their kids off for our out-of-school time programming. Some individuals would show up for their counseling sessions or meeting with the case managers to help navigate this variety of issues that they're dealing with in their lives. And suddenly people didn't have a way they had to navigate differently. Nobody was meeting in person, and many people that we serve didn't have access to technology. They didn't know how to use Zoom. None of us knew how to use Zoom at first either. So it was a pretty steep learning curve in terms of trying to figure out how to connect with people in a meaningful way that was safe, and address the issues that people were going through at the time. What we learned by making these calls at home was that it wasn't just Johnny or Angie, our out-of-school time kids or EAP kids, coming to us. What we were learning about was Angie and Johnny's dad or mom lost their job, didn't want to leave their home. Others had to move in with them because they weren't feeling safe, and people had a variety of different concerns. And so our staff were making weekly calls to the homes of the individuals that we serve. And in so doing, we learned that it wasn't just John or Angie and the BAP program that were having challenges with school. It was that we were learning about what was happening within the family and within the home. That were a complex set of circumstances and unique to each family. How do we, as an organization providing direct services, work with individuals and work with families with this new understanding about the scope of some of the challenges that these individuals and families were facing? So we had to learn a lot. And what we were learning was that maybe there's this potential that we're not just looking at the individuals that we're serving, but looking at the individuals that we're serving in the context of their families, however their families were structured. And that realization and that experience influenced one of our key 4 strategic goals that the board approved over a year ago to focus in on over the next several years. And that was the discovery that we could potentially have greater impact in our work if we begin looking at the idea of looking at a family as a unit in terms of our approach to our work here at Family House, rather than just working with individuals, understanding that the parents can be influencing how the kids learn at school, understanding that we would potentially need to engage with our social services people to help with an intervention where needed. And this is where Ada came in handy here with being able to be fluent in Cantonese. And as a family engagement person, she would often just meet people as they're picking up their kids in the afternoon and learning what was happening in the family. What challenges and opportunities were there for us to learn from families? So I want to turn to Ada to ask you to share with us a story or an experience that you witnessed and been part of in talking with the parents or the kids here in the out of school time program, and learning how we have been able to pivot and adapt to those needs during the pandemic.
It's on, right? Okay. I came on board 2021 in August. So as a family engagement counselor, my job is to engage the families. So my job is to get to know more about the families, because I believe in order to be able to work with our children, our students here, we have to get to know what's going on in their life. So I'm so grateful, and it's such an honor I get to really, for the last 1.5 years, I get to know most of my families. I mean, my families as the BAP bilingual after school program families. So I think I have so many stories about the impact that we have made on our families, and they are particularly, some of them really touch my heart. So I would like to share with you about this family, about this little boy that honestly, every time I see him these days, I have a smile on my face. So I'm going to share with you about this boy. Let me call him, I'm not going to use his real name. Let me call him Fain, okay? Fain, when he first started to attend BAP, he was in his 4th grade. He was tall for his age, but also too skinny for his age too. He was quiet, he barely talked, he refused to do homework. Whenever we are running programs, activities, he would just hide somewhere, sometimes on the stage, not responding to our teachers' questions. And I also want to emphasize that I really admire our teachers, the BAP program teachers, that they continually to show him their love, their care. They try to interact with him, but nothing happened. That was like 1.5 years ago. until a year ago actually, until last summer. Last summer, he also signed up for a summer adventure program, and during that time, he started to reveal more about things about his life. He started to tell teachers that he was always left alone at home. And he had to go get his own dinner. Imagine he was going into 5th grade last summer. So how old would he be? Like 9, 10? Yeah, something like that. And the mom, well, he comes from a single parent family. The father left Ping and his mom when Ping was actually a toddler. And it has been a very common practice for the Chinese family, especially the single mom, the young families. They would send their kid back to China when they were still a toddler for 5 years. So that was actually Ping's case. So Ping was in China for 4 or 5 years, and then the mom went back to China to pick him up, and then came to America to live together. So Ping was having trouble in English, definitely. And Ping did not have a family because the mom actually is always away from home, out of state for work. So Ping was picked up by a neighbor, paid by her mom, just to pick him up from the PAP. And then he would be left alone by himself. And when he's hungry, he has to go get food himself. So Ping was not, we can see that he was not happy. And apparently something wrong is going on with him. And the mom started to willing to work with us. Because before that, the mom would never show up. I never know who Ping's mom is. So I started to work with her, and then during that time, during the summer program, we paid for a behavioral counselor to work with Ping. So, and then our teachers continue to show their love and care for Ping. So, since the beginning of this school year in August last year, we can see Ping is such a happier boy. And he's still tall for his age, but he has gained some weight. He's responsive to the teacher's question and cares and love. And he also plays with his friends. He's totally a different boy. And he finished all his homework. And he's always really jolly. I could see his jolly face. He's smiling, and he's also wearing a pair of prescription eyeglasses. So apparently the mom is trying to take care of him. And no more left alone by himself. Whenever mom has to go out of state, mom is trying to do something. I want someone to take care of him. So he's such a happier boy. Yeah. So if you come to visit us, you can tell which one is Ping. Yeah. He's so happy. So I think this is one of the story really touched my heart too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Daisy, as someone who supports all kinds of decisions that people that are vulnerable to domestic violence or gender-based violence face, can you kind of speak to kind of how is it that in what ways do you support individuals and families in that situation here, especially during the pandemic?
So since pandemic, we are seeing more families and individuals come and to help for their mental health issue, for instance, the domestic violence. Since pandemic, we have experience in shelter in place, employment, social isolation. So there's a lot of stress underneath families or individual, and and we tend to just hide it, and we tend to not express our negative feelings. So it kind of like lead to more mental health issues. So you're experiencing more how to speak up. So like the stress can lead us and also lead the groups that have to a lot of different issues, the mental health issue and even like domestic violence. So we are seeing more domestic violence situation caused by anger management issue, mental health issue. But I'm very grateful that I, as a case manager that help domestic violence families, we are able to direct clients to the right services. Like for me, I have like domestic violence case management that allow me to provide housing, shelter referrals. We do legal assistance. We have safety plannings, and as I mentioned before, we see more clients coming to solve the problems of the mental health issue. We also I can refer them to like the counseling services, in-house counseling services, for talk therapy. Like even the case is more severe, we are able to refer them to normal social care. So I found that Cameraman is really an amazing organization because we kind of provide all around services. Like for example, when there's families who experience violence, we have case management to help them to manage the violent situation, and we also have the in-house counseling services to take care of their mental health issues. And sometimes they say, "Oh, I'm very stressed. I'm very depressed because I'm still in shelter. I got no housing." And then we also have like the general case management tool for housing, like public benefits, and also so we kind of like we provide all around services. When an individual or family comes, then we can help them to plan out what they really need, and we're able to help. And it is one thing that's amazing that we speak the language. Like we speak Cantonese, Mandarin, we speak some Toisanese, some Vietnamese, and English. And I really found that by speaking the same language, it helped us to develop trust and also a sense of safety when we speak the same language. Especially for Asian, for Chinese, we feel very vulnerable, and we don't share the vulnerability because we feel like, oh, we are not the same, we don't speak the same language. But by speaking the same language, we find that we are able to help them further, and we're able to share, the culture common grounds. So then we know what happened, and we know why you're not able to speak up. We understand why we kind of like waited for this long and to seek for help. Yeah. So this is one thing that I found is amazing in our team, and for now we're still doing it. We're still helping clients, especially after the pandemic. There's a lot of I think during pandemic we there's a time that everybody was home, everybody was experiencing unemployment, but actually the violence is still going on. But after it's been 3 years, we are seeing more domestic violence because the stress kind of comes out. So, but then we're still here, we're still able to help, and we still have a lot of resources that we can provide, and we're just still doing what we can. Yeah, so.
Daisy, I know that pre-pandemic you invited me to sit in or just observe
Yes.
what I think called a women's support group
Yes.
of individuals whose lives were being touched by domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, the social isolation
Yeah.
because of people's situations and being sheltering in place, and also just not wanting to be in person. That would seem to me so important to help build relationships among the people that were willing to be part of your
Yeah.
support group, because then they could have friends that could
Yeah.
build off of the relationship. How did that work during the pandemic?
Yeah. So yeah, they think of So we have a Cantonese women support group. We started for like 35 years already, but since we used to have it like in person group, we have it once a month. We offer dinners for children and women who experience domestic violence. But since pandemic, we are not able to facilitate groups in person, so that we moved the group online. So that's why we said that you would have to learn how to use Zoom. You have to learn, things on this internet. But we're very grateful that they know how to use it because their kids have to go to school and they have to use Zoom, so that their parents have to understand how to use Zoom. So then we moved the group online, and it's not easy because they're staying in their home and looking at the computers, and their living situation is everybody's different. Some they're living in the SRO, which is they have very limited living environment. So then maybe the daughter is having a class and we are having groups. It's kind of like it's very noisy sometimes. But they are very happy when we have the moments together online, and when we are sharing, because before the pandemic we would have a topic, we have a theme. Okay, today we're talking about healthy boundary, we talk about healthy diet, something like this. But at that time, we can just share whatever we want because they have a lot to share because they're in house. I'm frustrated with my daughter. We're stuck in the home every day. But then they found this very important, and they found it's very treacherous to have the group together. Like even we are online, even they're not showing their face, they just kind of turn off the video, which I understand. But then they're able to share. I'm very frustrated because I have no job right now. I'm not able to go to work. I still have to pay rent, but I'm happy that I can share here. And sometimes they will share resources to each other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If sometimes I feel this resource. I don't know, but because they were living in Chinatown. So then sometimes they will say, there's a flyer saying that they're hiring. You can go. I was like, that's awesome. It's awesome because they're sharing information and they're helping each other. Like even this pandemic, even they're in the house, but we are still able to share. And also the participant in our group, they're already out of the violent situation, so at least their situation is safe. They're living in a safe environment. So when we talk about things about like parenting and housing or different things that they need, they're in a safe environment to share. So I found that it's awesome because at the very beginning we are thinking, everything kind of like on pause. We are not able to do this in person, but we want to continue. We want to continue the group. We just try to figure it out how we can do it. And also thank you, Yulanda, and also my supervisors. They're very supportive. And they said, we can just do it online and just ask if they're able to do it. And so we have the group at night. So then after they have dinners, and we can share. We can talk like for now we moved the group in person, but I can share this later on. But we are still running the group, and the group is still helping all the participants, all the survivors to learn more, to expand their social network, and sometimes they're teaching me back because they have more resources than me right now. Yeah, so very cool.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's beautiful example.
I have a two-part question. By the way, how's everyone doing? You're exercising great self-control by not erupting in applause all the time, because you can see the passion, you can hear the stories. I just want to say to our staff, I'm so grateful to be on staff with you. You're doing hard work. And this is a transition into Chinatown, there are lots of post-pandemic challenges right now. And I guess for us in this conversation, if you could just sort of drill down and maybe highlight or name a specific post-pandemic challenge that families are facing in Chinatown.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Great. As I was kind of preparing for today and trying to answer a lot of different questions in regards to how the pandemic has impacted families, not just in Chinatown, but as well as Chinese families throughout San Francisco or even the Bay Area. And I think besides families dealing with the necessities of having the financial stability, having housing, as well as different types of support that I think the relationship within the family members, I think was a really huge priority, especially during the pandemic, during the earlier stages of the pandemic, because sheltering in place, I think we still kind of remember that sheltering in place are confined, a lot of families are confined in a particular living situation, like Daisy had mentioned, maybe in single room occupancies, SROs, or smaller size apartments. And we could see that as having challenges, right? When you're living in really tight space proximities with each other, but as well as we can see benefits to that too. Let's talk about benefits. Benefits is that I think a lot of families spending their time at home also gave them opportunities to learn about each other. Because I think pre-pandemic, a lot of times families are very busy, maybe going to work, children are going to school, and not a lot of time, family time together, right? Or parent-child time together. So learning to do that during the pandemic, I think, was something that was also challenging for folks too. But living in close proximity, I think the challenges also arise when we have maybe conflicts or arguments, because you're there probably almost 24/7, a day together, all the time. So I think that may cause also conflicts and arguments among family members. So there are benefits and as well as challenges within the family. So I think how to develop those relationships amongst the different members in the family was something that we as Cameron House also looking at, not just only the children, the adults, but also the dynamics of the whole family. So especially a lot of the children are learning at home, virtually, remotely, and we also know that there's statistics and studies that children have learning loss because of their stay at home. They're not able to interact with people, especially when it's time of their growth and development, not just mentally, academically, socially as well. So that really limited their engagement in the community with meeting friends as well. So I think besides that, like we were talking about how we need to learn how to adjust, right? How to adjust. I think as human beings, we're kind of like machines also, where we tend to need to adjust and adapt, right? Not only our bodies, but also our mind, right? But so we're kind of, probably some of us were not used to sheltering in place, but we have to be in that situation at that time. So I'm sure it took a lot of time for us to adjust to that. And I think right now, as communities are opening up, and we're making our own adjustments individually and as a community to the state we're in right now, right? Sort of we call new norms, whatever to those, whatever new norm to you may be, right? So a lot of times these families that we're working with needed to adjust to do things virtually, remotely. But the families that we work with are limited English speakers, low-income families. Maybe they don't have the technological devices, even a cell phone that you can work online or go on the internet easily, or maybe they don't even have Wi-Fi at home, for example, or internet connection. So how do we help families continue to communicate so that they're not isolated, so they're not socially isolated that we talked about, right? Or feel that they're not connected to the community and with their families and friends. So we thought about actually moving forward with our computer class, which we had pre-pandemic. We had a computer as well as an English as a second language ESL class. And we were kind of not confident ourselves initially about having a class in regards to teaching the community about Zoom. Because the community also before was kind of hesitant, especially a lot of older aging adults not having the confidence to learn something new. But I think during times of crisis, sometimes we discover ourselves like things that we feel we cannot do, actually that special energy, that strength and resilience kind of comes out to help us fight or do things that we never knew we had the ability to do. And so we really encouraged and motivated a lot of folks to join our Zoom classes, because that's kind of like a win-win situation for us. In order for them to learn how to do Zoom virtually and maybe access services online, maybe needing to visit their doctors online at that time. We've been going online to for grocery shopping or delivery of groceries to their home, access to other services in the community. So learning how to do Zoom was really important. And we had to learn it ourselves as staff, so just very grateful and thankful that staff were able to pivot, to adjust, and be a part of the team to move that forward. So a lot, like I would say within a year, about over 100 students participated in our Zoom classes. And it was also another win situation was that in order for other groups, like the Women's Support Group or our Cancer Support Group, participants to participate in our groups, they had to learn Zoom first in order to participate. So that was a win-win situation for us as well as the participants who participated.
Thanks, Yolanda. Wow, there's so many stories to tell. We want to save some time for Q&A. This is our transition to have a live Q&A. Don't get nervous, anyone, but if you have a question, and we can't read the thought bubbles, we don't know what your questions are, but we just want to open it up for questions that you may want to ask any of the panelists, and our panelists will be happy to answer.
And I'd also like to invite people in our group here. You all have lived through this pandemic and experienced what you have experienced with your own family and your own neighborhood and community. What have you seen? What have you seen in terms of the challenges facing the Chinese community here in Chinatown or in San Francisco with respect to the pandemic? What are you seeing that resonates with some of the stories that we've shared with you so far, and what still remains a huge challenge moving ahead? What have you observed? Hi, Leslie.
Hi, my name's Leslie. I do a lot with youth in my spare time through Rotary and Lions. I train for employment. I'm a physical therapist. I work with survivors of violence and abuse, PTSD, and women with autoimmune diseases like myself. I use martial arts to take back physical and mental health. Something that Daisy said that really resonated with me is prior to the pandemic, one thing that I would do, or that I know other people would do, is we would go with women to the grocery store. Women who had always been in a relationship or who had been controlled. This is the first time that they've opened a bank account or had a phone or done something. So during the day, with all these loud noises and going somewhere where they're asked their opinion and they have to be told to voice their opinion, it can get, like where you're clenching up because, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Of course I'm wrong. I'm not going to, you're right. I can never do this on my own. And you have women kind of break down like that. And during the pandemic, we haven't had been able to socialize and have that socialization. And so for my stuff has been removed to Zoom. And I do like an hour of physical therapy and activity and have like a topic that goes. And then the other hour that I talk to someone during the week or every 2 weeks is kind of coffee talk. Like how you said, girl talk. And it will either one-on-one or as a group. And these are people who aren't in the situation of violence currently. And that's been so helpful for all of us, myself included, in terms of now we have girlfriends and we're talking about, oh my gosh, and the kitchen on this and the family stuff. And it reminded me a lot of that. It gives, you don't always realize the confidence that just something that simple, and even a conversation about daycare or laundry detergent or plumbing can mean to a woman or a family that needs that. So that was something that really resonated with me. That I felt that too, and I maybe even didn't. I underestimated the importance of that. Something that I think of as a developmental that I want to see moving forward. Someone brought up to me a week ago or so at Food Pantry about, well, what about the African American teens in this community or the Latino teens in this community? Are they feeling part of Chinatown, or are they needs being met? And when Mike and I talked earlier about longevity of things and and how to help things in the long run, you know, the interaction, I need to focus more on how to interact youth from different backgrounds and get them helping older people and other backgrounds, and so that we have less of some of these issues we're seeing now, 20 years from now. So that's kind of what I see as a developmental or an interesting challenge for the future and what resonated with you here. So thanks, Steve, for that too.
Thank you so much, Leslie. You know, one of the things that I've heard Daisy and Leslie speak to is the way in which social isolation can be broken down, and in a way that really is more about the discovery about coming from a place of strength, right? When you find a way to convene people and have them talk about things that matter to them, that they can then also become resources to one another that help to build from strength, build from a place of abundance rather than build from a place of scarcity, right? Like I don't have anything to offer, I need help from someone else. But as you're describing in your women's support group, you're helping to facilitate in such a manner where they're beginning to see that they can become one another's resources, friends, being able to offer something of value to someone that doesn't translate or require money, right?
Very well said. Empowering, yeah.
So it is really an empowering part of the facilitation. Thank you.
And I want to echo back is the empowerment, because when I started this position, I think, oh yeah, I'm going to empower them. But when I started just talking about the Cantonese Women's Support Group, we actually moved it back to in person. And during the pandemic last year, we took the time to reorganize to the structures of the group, because we want to go further. We want to make it, more educational. We want the women's, they not just, okay, I'm done with the legal part of the, like the practical things, and we don't stop there. We want to, educate them and let them know that, oh, I know this now, so that I don't fall back to the BB cycle. So we have, so now we have a new Cantonese support group in person, and it's a 10 sessions support groups, and we talk about different topics. We talk about cultures, we talk about parenting, we talk about safety and violence, we talk about healthy boundary, we even talk about how to get into a new intimate relationship. So, and I feel like when we have the group, we have like 7 to 8 participants. We're gathering and we are showing our vulnerability. And at first I was kind of scared. Should we talk about violence? Are we okay to talk about this? But then we talk with Yulanda and also my supervisors. I think it's okay to talk about it, because we have to know what violence is, and then we can we know what we need, and we know how can we deal with it. So I found there's a time that a session we talk about violence, and we just talk about we just kind of like discussing about like why women they don't leave when they there's violence come, why don't they leave? And we just talk about this, and there's one participant just sharing why she didn't leave at first and what made her decide to leave, and she was crying. And I was like, okay, how should I respond? But then the group, like the rest of them, they're saying that you're so brave, you did the right things, and now you're having your new life, you did a good job, and kind of like they're empowering each other. And I was like, I was just kind of like I'm sitting here and watching this happening. I was like, wow, this is so powerful. And I found that it is like what we want to see, not just I am here to empower you, but then I see empowerment among the group. And they know, and for now, okay, I was abused, but now I'm able to start my new life, and I have a new social group, and a supportive group, and a safe environment. So then, okay, even though I have my past, but for now I'm able to move forward, because something I know now, and I know that I have, at Cameron House, I have people that I trust that could be one of us. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for what you're doing too.
Are there any
Other questions? This is great.
Danny?
Oh, that's
Hi everybody, I'm Danny Sauter. I'm the director of an organization called Neighborhood Centers Together, and I'm lucky to have Cameron House as one of our 8 members of that group. My question is around public safety. We're aware of the rise in hate crimes in the over the last few years, and I wanted to understand better how that's impacted participants in your work and maybe the fears they express or don't express, and then if you feel like it's gotten better at all, or if there's more comfort in coming out and participating, or if there is still that lingering fear. I just wanted to hear any of those stories and feedback.
I think there are still fears, individually as well as the entire API community. It's not just the pandemic, but having anti-Asian hate sentiment kind of added on, like kind of times 10 or 100 to a lot of the stress and distress and the fear that we already have in our daily lives. And I think that also, especially the isolation, I think a lot of folks have been kind of not wanting to come out. And you can see maybe in Chinatown, if you're here on a day-to-day, like maybe after 6, you don't see a lot of people walking on the streets anymore. But before there were more, or maybe more tourists you would see, but it's good to see that there are actually more tourists these few months. But then you don't see Chinatown as vibrant in the evenings anymore. So a lot of even our clients are fearful of coming out, whether it's grocery shopping, or they probably hurry up and come out and then quickly go back home before it gets really dark. So I understand that there is that fear. So I think the next step, and that's already on our list to do, is try to motivate or help people to come back out into the community. How do we offer opportunities or even gatherings for people to slowly and gradually, because I think people individually have their own pace, their own readiness to come back out into the community, to be with friends, to be with family. But we definitely see those fears. And I think there's also outreach to offer like mental health services to folks too, and support for folks. And I know other organizations here, we're very lucky as well, fortunate in San Francisco. We have resources that are available along with other organizations that we collaborate with that do offer other mental health issues and resources, mental health resources. But again, there is always stigma attached to sometimes the culture, especially Chinese culture, about reaching out to quote unquote outsiders or people not within the family or professionals to seek for help. So a lot of times things that are happening at home or fears that we talk that it's hard for us to share beyond just to ourselves or within the family. It's hard for people to reach out. And we do a lot of work to help encourage people to feel free to reach out when they feel it is the time to.
I see the opportunity, this is an interesting geographic place that we are in right here, where Chinatown is more or less concentrated by Chinese, right? And I'm interested in exploring what it means in this context to develop cultural competence, right? A curiosity about other cultures, understanding one's own culture, but also having inquiry, having experience with others that are different than ones than ourselves, and through the lens of diversity, inclusion, and justice, right? That we have as an organization so much opportunity to be networking, working with other organizations that work and operate in different neighborhoods, where the opportunity is to help build this sense of shared value, shared culture, shared interest, and shared home, San Francisco, right? Through those lenses, and I just see us being able to break down some of the barriers that potentially lead to conflict out of not having much experience with others different that are different from us. I think the world would be better through the work of addressing that diversity, inclusion, and justice through the lens of cultural competency and curiosity about others. Because it then, ideally, in theory, it helps to create more curiosity, right? A more openness to others that are different than us. And I think that's probably a legacy that we have at Cameron House is that legacy of welcoming all, right? It's loving all, regardless of who you are, what color, what shape, what size, what sexual orientation, however you're different and unique, how you present yourself to the world is something that I interpreted here at Cameron House as something that we would welcome and serve, right? So there's a lot of work that is being addressed by these different neighborhoods, but maybe not so much together.
I saw a hand. Yes.
Well, I'm thinking that within Chinatown, our folks have to work during the day. I mean, they send their kids here for after-school programs. For those parents that need help, they need to come in the evening. I mean, we need a staff of vampires too. We work at night, more so than through the evening.
Yes.
So what's your response to that? You still get people to come to you for community counseling sessions. But for people who have to work all day, when they come in and ask for services in the evening.
That's a good question.
We've had some luck with this. I think this is not something new per se, but I know that one of the ways that we have begun to pursue this idea of family-centeredness is to host our family outings on weekends, also our family support, our family nights here with the BAP kids bring their siblings and their parents to a dinner here that volunteers have traditionally done here at Cameron House. I don't think it happens on a every week. It doesn't happen on an every week basis, but it is the foundation on which we can invite families into Cameron House. And the model has been that people have a nice meal together, and then our social workers move the parents off to a different location, and our staff also facilitate a different group, the kids in a different place, and it really helps to create that sense of community as parents, challenging parents with that opportunity of what can be shared that touches the lives of those parents, what challenges do they face, what kinds of things might help equip them to be more effective advocates for their kids at school, or to be of better support. Instead of yelling at the kids to do their homework, what other effective ways of motivating and supporting the child in learning. So we've had some luck with that, and we've had some commitment to that pre-pandemic, and we've just kind of gotten back into the swing of things again with family nights here at Cameron House again. But it's a really important opportunity. I'm not sure how we'd staff it and whether or not how families would would buy into more often doing that. But we do have a good, we have a really great turnout on those nights when families come, because they get to have a meal together, right? It's a great way to do it.
I think as much as we really want to engage the families, apparently most of their parents, they need to work. They work during the day. So for last year, we have been arranging like at least 4 to 5 family nights or family outing during the weekend. So like Mike said, the turnout has been really wonderful. So the last family night event we had was like for Chinese New Year. And we have over 100 family members and the kids that they join us for dinner, their carol dancing, and some activities too. And I would say, I look at this new generation of the new immigrants. So I used to work here for 4 years. I could see that the family dynamic, the backgrounds, they're so different from like before the pandemic. This group of new immigrants families, they are more open to challenges. They are more resilient. They are more willing to try out new stuff. So I would say they are more proactive to come to us, to approach us for conversation, for help. So I mean, even though a lot of them they still live under quite a bit of fear about hate crimes and things like that. But I also noticed that they're more willing to come out. They're more willing to move on. So the way they behave makes it so much easier for us to work with them. So I believe that we'll continue to do more events during non-weekdays. Yeah, but that's our goal. But at this point, I think we have done quite a bit. We'll continue to think about it and continue to do more.
It should be noted that the family outings came of this conversation about how to engage families during the pandemic, and you should know that the Department of Children, Youth, and their families has been hugely supportive of the work serving families in San Francisco, and to the degree that they were able to engage some private philanthropists that 2 years ago raised $25 million so that all public school kids could have access to a six-week camp in the summer for free. They raised $50 million last summer to extend that. So the commitment has been pretty significant through the work of this agency to support this work. They supported an initiative that we recognize as an opportunity to deepen our relationship with the family and for us to create opportunities for our families was huge, because it was the first time that we opened Cameron House up to siblings and parents and our BAP kids to go do something that if the parents had to pay for these experiences themselves, they might not have the resources to do so. So from our point of view, that was an issue of equity. We want our kids here at Cameron House to be able to have access to the kinds of experiences and outings that their more well-equipped peers in other schools have as a privilege of being born into a family that has resources. So that's why it's an important initiative on our part to be able to help address these issues with families and be able to be supported by having these resources to do things, to facilitate activities that get kids out and about and have fun and have shared experiences together, rather than the kid just going to this museum or going to Great America by themselves without their parents and their kids. these become centered to the family by having shared experience, which is a really wonderful way, we think, of helping to bridge, to create stories within the families, and build the connections that they have within them, strengthen those bonds.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, my name's Bill. And I'm really thrilled to hear how Cameron House has been sustained during the pandemic, and I guess pivoted to more of a lens to help folks in the neighborhood. And I applaud you. It's hard work. It's work that needs to be done, and probably very special in terms of what needs are being provided for from other agencies. Mm-hmm. But I also speak to you as a grandmother, and really thrilled that my first grandson, Tristan, was able to come to day camp here, and then later become trained to become the day camp leader for a few summers. And I guess in the last couple of summers, he's also fitted into the summer program as, I don't know what his assistant, or I'm not sure the title. But I know for a fact that he has been tremendously helped by his association with Cameron House, being in a peer group, being trained as a leader, being a leader. And it's the one place that he feels just totally 100% accepted, and that people care about his humanhood, progress, growth, development. And I'm just really thankful he had that experience. On the other hand, my second grandson, Logan, and my third grandchild, Addison, who are aged 16 and 13, I just really am sad that they haven't been able to participate in a program like Tristan did, where they could learn about being a part of the community, being responsible, learn leadership, and work with justice issues. So I guess my question is, they will probably be all right. They'll probably grow up and be fairly responsible, fairly loving people, but they could be so much more, I think, if they were related to a community that totally accepted them and were interested in their growth and development. So my question, I guess, is work with Chinese American teens, is it still on the table somewhere? Is it kind of gone away and we should just say, we had that time, we were grateful for it, now we're moving on to something different, a different focus? Or is there still room for group work with young people? What are your thoughts?
Yes.
Yes, too. What are your thoughts?
Here is, this is what we've experienced. Before I arrived, Friday night club participation was declining. This is a free program or free activity that people would come to. And it was facilitated by volunteers and overseen by a couple of paid staff. We started to see the decline deepen pretty dramatically during the pandemic because the participants that were part of Friday Night Club back in 2019, I think on a good Friday night, there were 80 young people that participated. During that pandemic, the kids had to make a shift to doing their classes online, being on Zoom. I don't know how many hours a day. And Friday night, by the time Friday night came around, Friday night, being on Zoom with their friends was starting to lose its appeal because they couldn't be there in person. We also, I learned in talking with the volunteers, the youth development leaders, have shared their stories of how greater and greater expectations were kind of put on them as volunteers in terms of preparing for their Friday night activities. And as so many people here know that this is something that is a volunteer role, and many of these volunteers have other things in their lives that they're trying to juggle. And the amount of preparation that was kind of required of them to prepare for Friday night became more and more and more. Also, they're describing some of the issues that they were experiencing. Young people today, especially with social media, they're not so much of feeling equipped to be able to facilitate conversations and dialogue about some of these complicated things. So they were saying essentially to us, we need more training to effectively facilitate these conversations and we have talented people traditionally in this area of having youth development leaders, and they were just feeling quite overwhelmed by what they were being asked or what they felt they needed to do on a Friday night. And we've just seen attrition. We've also just, again, these YDLs, as we affectionately call them, were also impacted personally by what was happening during the pandemic too. So we really did experience a lot of pretty steep decline in the participation of both the people in Friday Night Club and the youth development leaders that we had. So we really had to, things like Carnival, our gala, those things, we didn't decide that unilaterally that we would not do these things. It just, we were living in a different era now. We've been able to restore our interest in serving youth in the teen area with our heritage apprentices. That last summer had a lot of great, wonderful experience learning how to do the traditional dragon dance and teaching and engaging with young people in the younger ages, younger grade levels, to how to build the dragon and how to learn all that they needed to know about performing a dragon dance. And we did that based on the staff capacity that we had. The last couple of years with the funding for our summer camps, we had a pretty specific mandate and agreement with the group that would provide these summer camps for free. Their issues that they brought to the table were that kids were socially isolated, right? People were experiencing mental health issues, right? They were also starting the gap in learning was growing deeper, right? And so they said, you can have this money to do this work, but you have to hire teachers that are credentialed to work with these kids, because we want to help close that gap in learning loss over the summer the best we can. And we need to hire social workers to deal with the social emotional health of the kids. And that was how we kind of entered into this realm of, instead of the model that had been in place pre-pandemic and back in the years, was a volunteer-based model. And we have, by virtue of taking on this, seeing the opportunity and having the funding to support our work, had to play by different rules. And the issues of learning loss and the issues of mental health are potentially areas beyond the scope of a volunteer to do. So we haven't lost sight of this concept Friday Night Club, or what that was all about. It's a beautiful model. It's just that we have to do it in a different, and we're having to deal with that in a different context, and we have to build the internal support to make that happen. I don't know if that helps you, Carol, try to understand that. We haven't lost sight of it. It's just challenging. And if I can be so forward, when I arrived here at Cameron House, we also were made aware of some of the challenges that we've had with respect to bullying, some behaviors of misogyny, some behaviors of toxic masculinity, and inappropriate behaviors that tie directly to Friday Night Club. As the executive director, I'm not willing to put my own integrity and reputation at stake to continue something without listening to the survivors say that you have to look at changing how boundaries are set, how people are held accountable for what they're doing, hiring the right people, training people, and setting standards for performance. So these areas just have not been in place formally, and we need to get at that before we're comfortable doing that. Such a downer, but important work. It's important work. This institution has a great reputation of being such great things, being incredible resources, building leadership. I don't think that changes. I just think that we just have to address issues that have been left and has escaped, evaded the focus and attention of an organization that needs to attend to some of these things.
Yeah, thanks for your response, Mike, because trying to envision what the future would look like, and if we're sort of all on the same page, I think we've heard today a bit of what, Cameron House is going to look like for the next few years. Just was wondering from my perspective, it just so happens that probably most of the people in this room right now grew up in the old model. We're here because the old model somehow, despite all its caveats and all the problems and issues, somehow from the hundreds of kids who came through those doors over, 40 years or 50 years, we are some of the people who responded to the program and we're here today. I'm not saying that we should go back to that. But if there were other paradigms or other thoughts or other dreams, imaginations, other things might work for kids today. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I don't think we're having.
We're probably on the same page, but maybe it hasn't been imagined yet. And
yeah, we're just beginning.
yeah,
We're just beginning. We're beginning. It's for us. How I like to say it is, I want to be able to take the beauty of the legacy, all the beautiful things that have happened, and you're an embodiment of that, Carol. That we want to find a way to bring that forward in a way, right? In today, in that's relevant to today and today's youth. And I think we are discovering that youth have been changed in pretty dramatic ways during this pandemic. And I think another aspect that we're operating in is we're just looking at the numbers of, I don't know how youth development and youth leadership was supported financially in the city. But I will tell you that there are over 400 organizations here in San Francisco that are supported by the Department of Children, Youth, and their families. These initiatives all are addressing things that overlap with what used to be, what the Friday Night Club of old, and the youth work that we're doing today. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, thankfully, for other youth, right? So that's kind of weighing on our minds too, in terms of what we develop that is unique and makes sense for an organization like ours to be able to do, and how we do it, how we would build the capacity for that.
Thanks.
I think we might have time for one more.
I just have a comment. Chinatown CDC, they have an alleyway project. Norman Fong used that as a youth leadership tool. He's a transplant.
Right.
But he did. He changed the alleyway project to be a youth development project.
Yeah, is that beautiful? I mean, I keep hearing all those great stories of people who were influenced by Cameron House in their youth, and then spurred all these other great initiatives that are happening all over this great city. So it's a wonderful part of the legacy of Cameron House.
I don't know if it was a good segue, but isn't there something that's going to be happening with this alleyway in a little while that's going to involve youth?
Where's the state?
Joy on Joyce is an initiative of Chinese Historical Society of America, right down the end of the alley. They experimented with it last year with a great turnout, and we were part of that conversation in the planning of it. We didn't have the capacity to actively participate, and they did it last fall. We've been talking with them about how we might engage our other neighbors here on Joyce Alley to do something bigger than we could do potentially by ourselves. And Cameron House has been traditionally, May, the first Saturday of May has generally been Cameron Carnival. And we've thought about how to do this so that we can pull our resources and our energy together to do something that has great potential for inviting people from this community into this space to celebrate and to be out and to be engaged in community goodwill. So we're in the planning stages of that, where we would find a way to connect the parts of Cameron Carnival that fit into the larger arts and kind of social aspect of Joy on Joyce. We haven't figured out how to rebrand that, but that's a springtime attempt to find a way to bring key organizations together and welcome others to be able to be part of something that's a bigger, larger community event.
Which helps us begin to work on those muscles of collaborating as we prepare for our 150th So as you all are aware, we started in 1874, and we're in our 149th year of existence. And this sort of collaboration with CHSA will help us in that journey, because in our 150th year of celebration, it's not going to be just one event, but we're imagining a year's worth of celebrating together. We want to be collaborating with other organizations, other minds of creativity in terms of how will we address and stay relevant as we move forward for the next 200, whatever number of years. We won't be here, but we want to certainly bless those that are going to come afterwards by thinking about it now.
We welcome you to stay, have more refreshment. We're here for questions. We thank you so much for joining us today and being part of this conversation to learn what's been happening at Cameron House and where we're headed as an organization. And we really appreciate your time today and your care and love for Cameron House. Thanks so much.